Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talent in Connecticut. On today's show, this is a Connecticut high school football preview, where I have the head coach of the Foran football program, Coach Tom Drew. Coach Drew, thanks so much for being able to come on, man.
Chris, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's been a while since I've had you on here. I know we've, had conversations on the phone and we've texted back and forth. And, first off, I just want to say, Coach, I hope you had a very good summer. And I know today with the storm and everything, it's been crazy, but I hope everybody's doing well.
Chris, I appreciate it. It's been a great summer because we're back to football and back to being with our kids, and it seems normal this summer, and I know the variant is up and down, but to me it just seems like this year this summer definitely the talk is football and not other things, which is good.
Oh, it's very good. And I think we've all missed football and we're getting ever so close. I mean, the season's what, 18 days, something like that away.
Yes, very close, and a lot to do in 18 days, man. A lot to do.
Oh, I mean, I can tell you right now, if you guys had another month, let's say, if it was extended another month, I feel like that wouldn't even be long enough because of all that was lost the last year plus.
It wouldn't, and I was thinking about. I remember that in the spring and winter talking to my AD pleading like, I wish the CIAC would give us August 1st as a start date, because even that 2 weeks it wouldn't be enough, but it would be something just to get these kids back into it. And there's, like I said, and I know everyone's in the same boat, but I just we all feel kind of behind the eight ball right now.
I think all coaches are with you on that. I think many would rather have August 1st rather than kind of what is in place now, but it is what it is. And hopefully down the road, maybe it'll change with discussions. But coach, obviously what you've done at Foreign over the last couple of years has been great, and I think the biggest thing I want to ask you first, as far as looking at last year, okay, how was it as far as the player turnout with what you were able to do with the 7-on-7, the alternative season?
So, that was the thing. Our seniors last year, I was very pleased with them, and they don't. I think for a lot of teams, the seniors last year don't get enough credit, and um, to be able to keep a team together that wasn't going to have a traditional season is no easy task. And I talked to many coaches around the state whose teams kind of once they said the season wasn't going to happen, those teams kind of dissipated, and it was really just the skills, the receivers and quarterbacks who are participating in the 7-on-7. And we didn't want to do that, and our captains didn't want to do that, and our seniors didn't want to do that. We wanted to be together, as long as we possibly could. And it's a tall order. I remember talking to our seniors last year saying, listen, I'm on board with this. I want to do it as well. But it's I can't, and the other staff, we're going to rely on you guys to keep it all together. And that senior class did a tremendous job keeping us. We were together as long as we possibly could, practicing as long as we possibly could with the entire team. I do think that is a special and unique thing that no other class in the history of Connecticut football has ever had to do. So I give those kids a ton of credit, and the credit goes to them for keeping us together last year. It really does.
Do you think in some ways, and I know it's obviously we can't predict what foreign is going to be like this season, next season, the following season, but to me, and this is just my opinion, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, that what the amount of success, and a lot of it's going to have to do with you and your staff, but the wins and whatever happens with foreign football the next 3 years, could you say that you're going to look back at that senior class and say they were a huge contributing part, because if they didn't do what they did, maybe the success does not come in the next 3 years because of the classes and all that?
Yeah, I mean, I think last year was a potential for a major setback for every program in the state. And you often heard in a lot of circles like, "Oh, this is the end. This is it." It's a lot of doom and gloom. And our thought process as a staff and as a team, and we openly discuss this with our players, is we're going to control what we can control, right? I mean, the decision to play football is not up to us. All these decisions are out of our hands, but we can come to practice every single day, work on what we can control every single day, and control that. And it goes back to like, we've been preaching this for years, but mental toughness for our kids is so important, and football is where it really is. A classroom extended from school, and that, to me, mental toughness is something we preach day in and day out. And that's when things get difficult, right? You have to rise above it. When things aren't going your way, you have to block it out and control what you can control. And so that's been our message. And I think if our senior class didn't have mental toughness last year, we wouldn't be where we are as a program right now, pushing 70 kids. I think we would have been somewhere around the high 40s to low 50s, and that senior class kept us together, and I think it's going to pay dividends down the road for us as a program.
How was it, Coach, during the summer when things were lifted and you were able to train and have summer workouts? How was that with the turnout? I understand vacations and jobs and all that. I get that. And it's not mandatory. You hope that they can come, but if they can't, they can't. But as far as the ones that were able to come, and for, like you said, out of the 70 plus kids, could you give me like a percentage of how many were participating during the summer?
Yeah, for us it was right around 50%, and which I would say was probably on the lower end. Like you said, we had a ton of kids working, a ton of kids who went on vacations, took advantage of the fact that we've all been cooped up for quite some time. So it was something that, as a coach this summer, more than any, you kind of accept, and you're like, all right, it is what it is. And as the summer got, as the summer winded on, and football started getting closer, our numbers started increasing significantly. And I think it hits a certain point in the summer for every kid and for every football player where they're like, all right, it's football time. We got to put the other things aside. The kids given their week notice at work. And so I'm happy that, since the OTAs, we've been 100% and 100% throughout. So right now I'm excited about that. And, but for all the kids out there in the state, I mean, you see, every coach sees a difference. If you've been working out all summer, and you've been training, it shows up at camp, and who's been doing it and who hasn't. So I will say, for the kids who were working, who were going on vacation, they did keep in touch with us. They did let me know what they were doing. And so for a lot of those kids who did, they're fine right now. I mean, they're up to par with the kids who were coming to us.
Were you shocked that you were getting messages from players who weren't there because of work, another sport, whatever the case may be? Because a lot of times, knowing the generations like I have, the last, this one and so on, sometimes even though they have these, they don't really utilize them to the best, literally, you're a call or text away. Hey, I'm doing this, or hey, whatever. Do you think having that, them having that ability to contact you shows the amount of maturity that they have early on? Because they could very easily do the opposite.
Yeah, they could, and I don't think we would let them, but they could. We made sure as a staff that we communicate with our kids all summer, whether they're showing up or not. It's just been too long, and so we wanted to make sure we were pretty on top of it, as far as making sure our numbers the kids were gonna stay engaged, and that was the hard part. Was, even as coaches, you've been away from the game for so long that it's like, you don't want to say it becomes normal, this other free time that you have, but it kind of does.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, the biggest change for staff and athletes have been, guys, this is what the grind looks like. You remember, this is what it is. And to me, that was the biggest change. And so I didn't want those kids to continue on that path of, we're not doing, COVID's here and we're not doing much. We're staying put. No, it's football time. The grind's starting, and we all need to be accountable. And of course, summer weightlifting isn't mandatory, but we're going to communicate no matter what, just to check in, see how you're doing and all that. So We felt that was important.
How is the energy, coach, as far as with the players? Because obviously their last season for many was 2019. So 2020 being canceled, there was the alternative season, but that was neither here nor there. It is what it was. You know, you got what you could out of it. But this is the first actual, like, there's going to be a season. So how was it as far as during the workouts and the first week of practice last week? How was that energy?
So I think the energy is great, and I think the stamina is weak, if that makes sense. So by the time yesterday rolled around, and we had an early practice yesterday, I would say it was fantastic. And then yesterday we put on the pads, and the beginning of practice was fantastic. We're doing some hitting, and but you could see the team start to lose steam, and it was a reminder again at the end of practice about mental toughness and the return to football. I mean, it is. I know some people like the term grind, some people don't, but when you're working and you're putting the time and effort into something that's very important for you, it is a grind. I mean, it is, because a lot of time and effort goes into it. And so these kids, you could see it. Like today was a well-deserved day off for a lot for our kids, and we'll get back together on Monday, and hopefully, the goal for next week is to last and be high energy and effort all the way through Saturday again, and so that's what we want to see. And we're building in terms of that, and it's going to be a process. We know that as coaches, and we have to be patient.
Yeah, I think every team is probably in that same situation as far as it taking time. I mean, putting on pads for the first time for all of them in a long, long time. You have to get back to kind of, I remember, I think it was Bill Polian or somebody in the NFL said it takes about a week to kind of get back into hitting shape. And what he meant by that was it's not so much hitting somebody, but doing it properly. And I think a lot of people don't understand when you're continuously tackling over and over and over on top of the conditioning and just the heat and just what, you haven't done it in so long, the body wears down quicker. And you have to get back to, like what you said, getting back to the attrition factor of making sure you're doing it properly. And I think for every team, and I know that it's going to be different for various reasons, but each team is going to have their set of, like, okay, it's going to take a week and a half. It's going to take 2 weeks. It'll take whatever the amount of time is.
Right, right. But as you said when we started, there's 18 days. So 18 days left. So time is of the essence, and we know that. And so we're going to be patient, but we're going to be persistent as well. And I know our kids, our senior, this year's senior class, you think about it, we're sophomores the last time we were together for a football season. And so and this is the way it is all over the state. These sophomores are now seniors are learning how to lead. And there's milestones that go with football and with any sport really, freshmen, sophomores, juniors, seniors, and there's roles that these different classes play. And they missed out on that little middle portion, that becoming a leader. So they're learning too. And I think as a coaching staff, I'm having, the staff and I are having to constantly say, hey, we have to show them how to lead, whereas in other years that necessarily hasn't been the case.
Now, looking at real quick the 2020 alternative season, lack thereof, you and your staff, I'm sure, texted and we're talking constantly. How much of that, because I'm sure you were planning while you were talking for the 2021 season, all right?
Mhm.
And I've asked the coach from Bristol Central this, and he gave me a very interesting take on it. I want to hear your take. Is there anything that you've had to change the first week plus of practice, maybe that you weren't planning on changing, or has it kind of gone what you guys thought when you guys were talking consistently during the downtime?
So we have a 4-day install, and it repeats for offense and defense. And I think right now we're struggling is, we feel like, is it too fast for the kids? Is this too much? Are they swimming in the head? And, is it, but you have to remember, and we talk about this too, is sometimes chaos is good, and at the end of the day, the repetitions, they will get it. And we always circle back in an install. Let's say we're putting in zone day one. Well, day 5, of offense is you're back to zone, and you're repping it all week. So yeah, you always think as a coach, is this too much? Is this too much? But I do think the kids are pretty resilient, and they do end up getting it, and the more we rep it, the more we do it, the more they understand. So, we've talked about slowing down the pace and slowing it down and kind of, breaking it up a little bit more. But we're going to stay on path, and I think we're going to be all right.
I think you made a great point about kind of the swimming in the head part. I mean, the attention span for anybody is only 15, 20 minutes. Otherwise, you start losing them. So have you had to do during practice, like you said, you try to get as much as you can, and sometimes chaos isn't a bad thing. But at the same time, and I'm sure you would agree with this, that if you can, like, let's say they're messing up on, like you said, zone or for defense, a cover three, if they're just not getting it, but you keep doing it after like a half hour, if it's not working, then you know what? You say, okay, today's not the day. Let's move on to the next thing. Have you had to do that during any of the practices thus far?
Um, Not really. We've had to stop and slow it down a little bit and teach it more than we normally have. But I've always been a firm believer in coaching on the fly and repetitions, because I can talk to the kids as much as I want, but they're not going to truly. They learn it by seeing it and doing it. And I remember, I always think back to when I was in high school. We would rep every single play 20 to 30 times before we moved on to the next one. And eventually it just became, second nature. And so we always preach, coach on the fly and let them see it again. Coach on the fly, let them see it again. And so I think those repetitions are more beneficial uh than stopping for a minute and a half to explain. You know what I mean? And but there are always those circumstances where kids do need that little extra help. But we've been lucky this year, or I think the kids have gotten their heads in the playbook on huddle, where they generally have a good idea of what we're trying to do. And it's just the small refining things that really need to be worked on.
Is there any particular position or group that you could say has really stood out early thus far in practice?
I'd say we have two linemen, offense and defense. They kind of went both ways, that have experience, and so they're the only two players with varsity experience on our team. And so it's amazing how that experience, how much that helps them at this point in the year and where we're at, because they are like those two are ahead. I mean, they're just ahead, and it's noticeable of where everybody else is because they have that experience. So I would say right now, although it's still such a work in progress, up front is ahead of where we normally are at this point. Our line, so our offense and defensive line. Um, Depth is still an issue because we're trying to find the guys, even at this, in other positions. So depth is an issue at every position for us right now. But we have a couple guys who are experienced in that area, and we certainly like what they bring to the table.
For people who may not have been able to read the Game Time article that did the preview on you and such, I think they'll like the fact that, you know, the forum program, if they couldn't read it, hence why the podcast, they can have this and listen to it. You and I were talking as far as before how each position is up for grabs because you just don't know what you truly have. And the question I have for you as coach, do you think it's a blessing and a curse to have a situation like that where every position is open in a sense?
Well, it's fun. I'll tell you, it's fun for everybody because competition is just, that's what we're here for, right? So I think it's fun for every kid, and it's interesting. It's kind of weird. At the end of the night, the other night we were ending practice, and I look up at the sky and there's like a half moon there, and so I look at the kids and I'm talking to them. I'm like, where's the other half of the moon? Is it gone? And the kids were like, no. I'm like, all right, where is it? And they're like, it's just shaded. I'm like, exactly. Half the moon right now is lit up. That's kind of the way it is right now in practice. I see half the kids who want the reps and the other half kind of standing in the shadows. And so we really want that competition to be where everyone is in the competition. Everyone wants to be involved. In a sense, we want that full moon where everyone is in the light. And so for us as coaches, it's been fun because um, every kid is jumping in for reps because everything is up for grabs. It really is. And you say that as a coach every year, and that's true. But this year, it's never been more true than this year for us. We're everywhere from quarterback to defensive back. Every position really is up for grabs for us. So it's exciting, but it kind of gives me a little agita because we as you said, the season's right around the corner and we need to start making some decisions. So we will do that as the scrimmages start to happen, and we'll start to narrow down our depth chart.
As we look forward toward the SEC season for you and your schedule, do you have any idea? And I know this, you probably don't know because, again, like you said, every position's up for grabs. You may say, "Oh, this player has a chance to be able to play quarterback for us." Then, as you get closer to the season, it's like, "Oh, maybe not," and then somebody else overtakes them. Do you have any idea what kind of team, as far as offensively and defensively, you're going to have? Or is that going to be basically until the first game of the season? And even then, you may not even truly know because things are just going to be changing like crazy.
Um, I think we're going to continue to preach balance, and there's a couple ways that looks. And I think we want both. There's the balance run pass, and then there's the balance how many kids are touching the ball. And Mike Leach that was always his famous line was balance to him is how many kids touch the ball, not necessarily run pass. We think we could do both in a lot of creative different ways offensively, and we want to stretch the field horizontally, and we've always done a pretty good job stretching it vertically. But we want to get the ball in as many kids' hands as humanly possible. I think it makes football fun. I think it's tough to defend. And so for us offensively, we're going to keep pushing to do that. I think defensively for us, before I got to Foran, it was always an offensive juggernaut. I mean, they put up a lot of points, and I think our DC has done a great. John Reineke, who has done a fantastic job of getting our kids excited and really taking pride in being a defensive team. And not that our kids don't love offense, but when you say, "Hey, tomorrow's a D day," you can just see there's a little bit a different chipperness in their eyes. So defensively, I think we're going to do what we do. It's a 4-2-5 base. It's John does a good job of teaching up the two read and for our base coverage. And they're going to fly around and 11 halves of the ball and do what they do. And so I have full confidence in John. And this year offensively, Mike Farrell is going to take over the offense for me. I just it's with the year being what it is, and there's a lot of other things, and I think most head coaches will say that they're dealing with as far as COVID forms and everything like that. So Mike has been great to take over the offense. He's very organized, and we think very similar. So I think he'll do a great job with our offense this year.
I got a bone to pick with Reineke because I texted him during the summer, be like, "Hey, how you doing, man? Hope everything's well." Because I haven't talked to him really since I had him on months before. Didn't even get an answer back. I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm not a fan of Reineke anymore."
Reineke only answers back if you mention that you're going to take him golfing somewhere. That's it.
Go figure. All right. Well, I guess I have to offer golf for him to be able to come on, right?
Yeah, he's very picky. He's like he every time if I call him, I'm like, "Where you been?" "Oh, I'm golfing." "Where you been?" "Oh, I'm golfing." The guy golfs every single day, and he's not good, but he tries.
Hey, it's all right. He's a heck of a defensive coordinator, and I think, and I'm glad that that you mentioned it because I did want to get to him really quick because when you texted me and said, "Hey, you got to have this guy on. I don't know how long I'm going to have him for." How thrilled are you that you are keeping him for another season, especially with all that's going on because of the lost 2020 season? And like you said, with everything going on, it just like, let's be real. The first couple weeks are going to be ugly for a lot of teams for various reasons. And I think the fact that you guys still have your DC from last year, you still have obviously yourself, and there's other pieces still there. Having that camaraderie and just that comfortability, especially with Reineke defensively, that's got to be a huge plus early in the season when you may have to rely on your defense until the offense could start, get going a little bit.
John could have been a head coach a long time ago. He's a great mind. He's calm. The kids love him. I mean, that's all you need to know about him is the kids love him. And so, there's a tremendous amount of loyalty that he and I have, and I've told him numerous times, John, if you want this job, take it. I'll call him all the time. If I see an opening, I'm like, hey, this spot's open. And I've been lucky that he's just at a point where he's happy where he is. He's happy in the position he's in. I do think he can be a head coach wherever and whenever he wants. I'm just thankful that time isn't yet. But I fully support it whenever that time comes. I mean, he's just a great guy to coach with.
Coach Drew, I really do appreciate you coming on. I do have one more question for you really quick. For people who will be going to the foreign games, and obviously I've seen on Twitter as far as the band and how they're thrilled to be able to do, being able to do the games. And it stinks that I can't broadcast a foreign game because I'd love to see the foreign band because I don't know if you're familiar with the Naugatuck band. They're pretty top notch as well. I'd love to see a Naugatuck foreign football matchup. And then
Mhm.
just because I want to see the band on top of it, that would be awesome. But just kind of give me a little bit of a preview about kind of what people could expect from the football team of Foran this year.
Well, it's interesting. I do know that we will control what we can control, which is we are going to give max effort every night. We're going to be positive. We're going to have high energy. We're going to be flying around. We're going to utilize as many kids as we possibly can on offense, and we're going to play fast. These are things that, like we talk about, things that we can control. As far as all the other stuff, I guess the only time will tell. But we're in the mindset where we're going to control what we can control. And just to piggyback on what you said, I think our band director, her name is Jess Turner, and I had a band director when I played a hand. There was a band director named Rich Fasano, and he was one of the toughest guys I ever met, and the band reflected that. I mean, they were unbelievable. You could hear it, and Jess is no different. She's one of the toughest people I've ever met, one of the hardest workers I've ever met, and that band reflects it. And the band directors who go to football games, who go to athletic events with their kids and play for the athletes and play for the parents and put on a show like that, I give a lot of credit to. She's great, and our band is fantastic. So I think no matter what, if you come to a foreign event this year, it's going to be a community event, not just football, but a true community event that is going to be special. So I'm looking forward to getting back to that.
Coach, I wish you and your team nothing but the best of luck, and hopefully I can get you back on during the season to hear more about how Foran's been doing as far as this season. Because I'm really intrigued because, like you said, every spot's open, so anything can happen. And I feel like there's going to be something pretty cool going on in Foran this year.
Well, Chris, thanks for having me on, and as I was telling you, man, thanks for all you do for Connecticut sports and football in particular. You're fantastic. We appreciate it.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. That'll wrap things up here from the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. Remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent, and I'm on a journey to find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.